Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of Relab Live. I'm going to talk to you about another design sprint technique that we use a lot, which is the solution sketch process, and it's explained clearly in the book by Jake Knapp, the sprint book by Jake Knapp. But today I want to talk to you about how we do it here in Relab, because we've done mistakes around that before and we've learned a few things that I think is going to be valuable for you. So I'll explain to you about the different processes and how we go through it. So as you know, if you've read the book or if you're familiar with the process, the first one is note-taking. The second one is idea writing. The third one is crazy eights, and we've done a video around crazy eights before, so I'll make sure that we put in the link down below in the description as well. And the fourth one, the final one, is a three-step solution. So I wanted to show you how we do it and potentially give you some examples as well, so it's clear visually on what it ends up looking like. Okay, enjoy. Now, to do all of this, some of the essentials that you need in terms of stationery is a Sharpie or a pen. We use clipboards and pieces of paper on top of it for you to write notes, and so I provide this to the rest of the participants. You also need your time timer, which is very important in a design sprint process. Therefore, you could just time the minutes that you would allocate to a certain activity. So as I was saying, the first step is note-taking. What does that mean? You go around the room because by this time your sprint room would be filled with artifacts. Artifacts means, the goals, the questions, the user journey, the lightning demo stuff, things that has been mapped throughout the first few days. And that's what you're really going to go around, remind yourself, and pretty much record the stuff that are around the room on the walls into this piece of paper or a couple of pieces of paper. A great way to do this is you start with your goals and questions. So you kind of remind yourself on what the goal was again. I'll just write it down, goal, and then fill it up. And I'll also write the top three questions. So questions, and then 1, 2, 3. And so I have it, for example, like that on my piece of paper. What that means is I can constantly remind myself while I am creating ideas later on, or sketching, or coming up with my own version of the solution. I can always remind myself on what the sprint goal is and what the questions are without having to stand up from the table, go around the room again. It's just easier for me to do it like that. And so the same thing, I'll go around, the other inspirations, the lightning demo stuff, the ones that stood out to me, or the ideas, the big ideas that stood out to me, I'd like to write it down and maybe just draw a low fidelity thing. Pretty much re-record the stuff that are of interest to you or you think is going to be helpful for you to create your ideas. Remember, at this point, you're not even coming up with solutions yet. I know it's very hard to do that because you're always in solutions mode, but you're not coming up with solutions yet. You're only simply recording the stuff that are around the room onto the piece of paper so it can work efficiently in the next step, which is idea writing. So now I've roamed around the room and gathered the aspirations that are around me into a piece of paper or a couple of pieces of paper. So I know this is very lo-fi, but it kind of looks something like this. I would have written, what the sprint goal was, what questions are, the type of inspirations that I liked, and ideas that I liked from the lightning demos and a couple of other activities that was done previously. So I kind of have it recorded here. I don't need to spend my time going back and forth between the table and the room walls. So I've spent probably about 20-30 minutes doing that. and I think that's enough time. And oftentimes we find even 30 minutes can be a little bit too long, that you might even just spend 15-20 minutes. But depending on the challenge and the type of artifacts that you have, that it may vary. But let's say I've spent about 20 minutes on it. Okay. Now the next step is idea writing. So previously I've written some notes. I've recorded some notes. The one that stood out to me, now is the time, for the very, very first time, it is the time for the sprint team to come up with solutions and start thinking about it. Now, oftentimes people would have thought about a few things, but this is where it becomes a little bit more real. It's not the final version of your solution yet. It's just for you to get started on your idea. So at this point, what I'll do is, on my piece of paper, I'll already start thinking about interfaces. I might be drawing some mobile, web, whatever type of interface, depending on the project. But based on the ideas that I had, I'd be writing it here, starting to draw a few, mini wireframes, giving myself room to improve my thinking. Okay, so that's essentially what I'm doing. I might be doing the same type of interface. I might be exploring a couple of different types of pages or interface. It's up to me. There's no rules around this, or all you're given as a sprint team member is another half an hour, 20-30 minutes of your time to explore ideas or start exploring ideas. Okay? Okay, so now that I've done my idea writing, so remember the first step was note taking, where I go around the room and record some ideas that inspires me or that appeals to me. And then I spend another 30 minutes or 20-30 minutes on doing my own version of sketches, very lo-fi, early type of starters, sketches. And I'm obviously doing this for the purposes of the video, but let's say roughly, I'm starting to come up with things that are a bit more visual. In the real world, I'll start writing things around it, give myself some room to even explore and develop the idea that I had in mind, referencing some of the other ideas that I liked previously from other examples or whatnot. Okay, so we've done the idea writing part. The next part is to develop further. Part of the beauty of a design sprint is you're actually thinking about the same type of problem over and over and over again, that it just gets even better over time. All right, and everyone does this individually. I'm doing this by myself. 3 of my other sprint team members are doing it by themselves, so it's pretty quiet. I like to set some mood ambient type of music, focus type of music, just to remove the awkward silence around the room. But okay, let's say my ideas are there. I'm starting to think about a couple of key interfaces. I'm reminded by the facilitator as well that at the end of the day, the goal is to come up with a 3-step solution individually. As a team member, I will need to come up with my 3-step solution for the sprint goal, right? So I'm already thinking, usually I'm trying to get the team members to think about the top 3 to 5 type of interfaces that would be the main one within this product, whether it's an app, a website, or whatever it is. Think about the 3 to 5 key interfaces. So in my crazy 8s, I'd narrow it down to the top 3, and I won't get into too much detail of how to do the crazy 8s, because we do have another video around it. Do yourself a favor and watch that video, because that's the steps on how to do the crazy 8s. Just make sure don't get crazy yourself. But it's very important, because that's probably one of the exercises that people tend to get confused sometimes. But have a look at the video. Hopefully that is clear enough for you. But what happens after the crazy 8 is you would have developed your idea further. You would have thought about 3 key interfaces, say the dashboard of the app, or the product listing page of the app, or the checkout page of the app. And And through the Crazy 8, you would have had the opportunity to explore those 3 interfaces in different forms and variations in a short period of time. And so the Crazy 8 itself will take another half an hour to do in total, okay? But that's what the Crazy 8 is. So now that we're done with the Crazy 8s, you'll have something that looks like this. You may even have 3 sets of this. And those 3 sets, in my case, let's just say that I'm developing a product that involves a listing page, a dashboard, and a checkout. So my 3 sets of Crazy 8s would have been a dashboard, a listing page, and a checkout. Now I'm filled with ideas. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to finalize my ideas. I'm ready to refine my solutions. And this is what is known as the 3-step solution. The reason why it's called 3 steps is because we have 3 pieces of A4 paper. Now this is a version where it would have been done. Again, I'm just drawing a lo-fi version, so you only see lines instead of real text or writings. But there's 1, 2, and 3. And each page represents a step. So step number 1, for example, the big idea here that I'm trying to propose is short page length on dashboard. Big idea number 2, the second step is lifestyle products offered on product listing page. Big idea number 3 is one-step easy checkout. So these are the ideas or the features that I'm trying to propose to the stakeholders and the rest of the team members the next day during the Silent Art Museum process, where people will vote on different ideas. If you have 3 or 4 team members, then at the end of the day you will have 3 or 4 sets of these solutions, okay? What I like to do here at Relab as well, if I was facilitating it, is I'd like to give the team members more tools than usual. So for example, if you have a Sharpie, Sharpies can be a little bit fat over time. The lines could get thicker and thicker, that you struggle to work with the space that you have, and that's why I like to give team members pens as well. So a thinner ballpoint like this works really well. I'll just try and show you, but let's say if that was a Sharpie situation, then you can use the little details. You can use the ballpoint for the little details just to clarify what you meant, because remember, you're not presenting this to people the next day. They're simply just going to be pinned up and people will go through it. And so what that means is your sketches and your explanations will need to be self-explanatory. So, you know, other tools are glue sticks, masking tapes, scissors, always handy. And obviously your trusty time timer. Unlike the previous exercises that took probably about 20-30 minutes each, this one you have a lot more time to develop and refine your sketches, because this is the final thing that you'll submit. So I like to give people probably about at least 2 hours to do it. Some people do it really quickly. Some people need a little bit more than 2 hours, but 2 hours seems to be a pretty good benchmark to start with if you wanted to drop that down in your sprint agenda. The other thing that is quite important are that these solution sketches are meant to be anonymous. Oftentimes, if you're working in a small team, in a smaller room, it's hard to be anonymous because people will kind of know whose idea belongs to who. But what's important is that the experts or the senior stakeholders don't really know whose idea that belongs to, and some people forget to. But the idea is you're not presenting this and exposing that this idea belongs to me or belongs to team A or B, team member A or B, and therefore you're actually giving your idea a nickname. So for example, this was my idea, which I'll submit to the facilitator, and I'll come up with a nickname for it. Let's just say the Big Bang or whatever. Obviously your nickname should not be your actual name. It should be something anonymous, just as a unique identifier of what your solution is called. Okay, so the next day facilitators will go up to the room and they'll pin it up to the wall and just have the solution nickname kind of like up there, and there'll be a few different solutions that will be spaced out nicely, but I'll get into Silent Art Museums in the next in the next video, hopefully. and explain a little bit more about that. But essentially, guys, the solution sketches is basically those four steps. Note-taking, idea writing, crazy eights, and finally coming up with the 3-step solutions, okay? Hopefully that's been helpful for you, and if you're confused and if you have any questions, don't hesitate. A fly just came to my glasses. That was weird. Anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, alvin@relab.com.au, or you could just drop a comment down here and in the comment section below, and I'll try my best to answer it. All right, thank you guys, and have a great day.